mainly with the principals and finding out what their needs are and where we best address those. And we bring people in to do certain things at certain times or after hours, during hours. In other words, we don't try to make our model come in and make you conform to our model. We want to do what's best for the system, do it right, and don't end up upset the application. That's what's made us successful. But we've produced everywhere we've been. And I can proudly say that any system we've ever taken over, we've never been asked to leave. Thank the Lord for that. But I won't go any further into a lot of details. We can have any question you have either tonight or by phone, or I'll leave some information for you to call if you need some additional questions after. Answer what we can here for you tonight. We definitely want to be in Wayne County. It's a targeted area that we've looked at for several years, and we just appreciate the opportunity to come down and talk with you about it. And I especially want to thank this. He has walked many a mile over the last few weeks, and he's walked through the system. And we looked at every room, top to bottom, every school that we might have the opportunity to go into. So after all that, I'll just step back, and if you got any questions, whether it's retention on current employees, benefits, wages, anything like that you might have that would help you talk to people that might have some questions for you and some concerns, we'll do everything we can to either give you the answer tonight or get you the answer as soon as we can. Thank you so much.
Anybody have any questions for?
Yeah, I want to know, and you kind of touched on that a little bit, but what is the, maybe y'all can answer that. How long do you have? I know they got a year on a year contract, but let's say we have employees that are transferred over to his company, and at the end of that year, they decide that they want someone else. I mean, how is that working? And I also would like to know about the benefits. What benefits do you offer the employees, and how do you determine the salary scale?
It's kind of hard for me here through your to make sure I understood everything for you there. We set up, normally it is a year contract that we propose, or you ask for in your RFP for a 1-year contract. We have systems that want to do a 3-year contract with a rollover each year, and for 3 years, and then it's reassessed at the end of the 3rd year. But all contracts that we put together are, if we don't perform, you can fire us pretty much in 30 days, and we can, we'll be out of your way. That hadn't happened yet, but it's always a chance it could happen. I think you asked about benefits. We offer any employee that's 30 hours or more is offered benefits for medical benefits. And if you, I have some of the benefits spelled out, or specifics in the request RFP, but I don't know if you have any of those, and they're listed there. But again, I was a former banker. My wife is in medicine, and when I left banking, I got under her insurance plan. Well, when we got our insurance plan put together, I looked at it, and I came off of hers and got on this because it's so much better. We have not had any employee that has been under that plan has been dissatisfied. I think you asked a question about an employee that at the end of that year,
right?
What would their status be?
Uh-huh.
That's a good question. If our company took over the system and the employees who want to work for us and decided to come to work with us, that's their decision if they want to. And we hope all of them do. If they go to work for us and then at the end of that year, the system did not want to renew, the system would either decide to go with another outsourced company or bring those employees in-house. So in other words, it would be up to the system. Just because we left, that doesn't mean any of the employees we either hired or had brought into All Clean would automatically lose their jobs if we were let go. That's what I would assume there. The system still had the right to retain any employee that was working for All Clean at that time, if the contract came to a conclusion, or good or bad. If we pulled out or we were let go, the system would still have that wherewithal to bring those employees back into the system, if that's what you chose to do. And most companies like ours that does outsource, they try to retain all the employees that they can when they do come in. They're a premium. It's hard to find good people, and if you got good people, you want to retain them and do what you can to keep them.
Yeah, how do you determine salary based on, let's say if you had somebody been here 40 years? I mean, how's your salary scale?
That's unique to each system or each RFP. Now, if your RFP, which can be explained, like if you've asked a specific question how the RFP is listed, if that employee is making X number of dollars and the system says, if we want you to retain that employee at that current rate, then that's what we'll do. That's what we would do.
So now discuss how do you modulate those employees, because we have some employees who've been in this for a number of years. And so when you're talking about their pay and their benefits, how are we modulating them from district employees to your company's employees to make sure that they're maintaining what they currently have or increasing?
That's a good question. We've just gone through this with Wheeler County that had their own in-house janitors or custodians. And when we took them over, we brought all of them in, brought representatives from the insurance companies that represent us. We brought them in because it was close enough for them to come over, and then sometimes we sent a representative over to that system to sit down with employees to explain what we have versus what they have, but compared to what they presently have. Now, if they go to work for us, then it would make sense if they wanted coverage as far as medical coverage to convert to hours. We give them what our participation rate is, tell them what based on what plan they chose, which includes, of course, all of the medical, and then includes eye, dental, cancer policies, accidental death policies, everything that's ancillary that they can buy, but it's offered from the companies that we have that work with us now. But did you have another question other than the medical side of it? Or?
What's the average cost of the medical?
Well, I don't have those actual costs on the top of my head. I can get that for you fairly easy. I don't have that.
It's not in the RFP.
It's roughly about
Around $70 a piece. And we get twice every 2 weeks.
So that's the individual rate, of course, not the family rate, correct?
Now, you talk about going to these different districts, and I'm just asking, when you went to these districts, has there ever been an opportunity where you have only provided certain services, like for instance, you don't employ all of them, so you employ enough for you to run your operation? Have you ever been in a situation where a system maintains some of their employees and you also employ some of the employees and you handle certain things and districts continue to do something with their employees?
If you're saying inside, just give an example, the high school. If we go into a system and we take over that particular, whether it's the elementary school or the middle school or the high school, we have up to this point done 100% of what needed to be done for the cleaning services, which goes from floor work, carpet work, cleaning, all the way to the custodial staff. Are you asking if you're like, okay, give me an example of what you might be.
We have a series of events that go on, and this is a joke around the community, but our high school never shut down. This is the first time in 15 years that it's ever shut down.
I totally agree. Most of them don't.
So we go from football season to basketball, volleyball, we've got wrestling now. We've got student council events, FBLA events. It's nonstop all day, every day. And so some of our custodial staff does janitorial things, but they're also helping us with games. They're helping us with different events that we have. Set up, break down tables, move stuff. They do more than just clean. How are we going to address those needs? If you take over 100%, are we still going to be getting that kind of service, or are we going to have to maintain employees to do those type of things that we need done to maintain our events that we control?
That's an excellent question. And that comes up a lot in the systems, especially again in the high school. Some in the middle school because they have athletic events too. We don't have that one stamp fits all. We have employees that work for us or that have worked with the system that the Toombs County, we have a lady or a gentleman that is heavily into sports, but they work for us. And in that particular contract, if we were to do something extra, then there's some chance that we may have to bill for some of that extra other than the contract. Well, the sports boosters hired her just to clean up after basketball games. So that can be done. But normally, if we go into a system, we sit down with the RFP. We go basically off RFP as our roadmap. Now, but as if you were to talk with any of our superintendents and any of our principals, that RFP or the contract we have is a general plan. We do so many things for the system that's not in the RFP or in the contract, and a lot of times we don't even charge for it. A lot of things we do, but to answer your question about extracurricular activities, whatever it is, baseball, track, whatever, we can facilitate for that to be cleaned up after the event. You're talking about high school, you know, any number of things, but we can set it up where all that's taken care of. But if the school system says, listen, we want you to clean the school, and then we'll take care of those events. Certainly you can hire, if you decided you wanted to do that, you can hire any of our staff to do that. Or we can put together a plan for you for that and take care of it. And we do it all different types of ways. But I wish I could say specifically, but it's really not, because we just make it work. If that makes any sense there. If you got something that's not covered, you call us, we're going to send extra help.
Pretty much, if it happens to that high school, we're going to take care of it.
Yes.
Now, if you have an event that happens in an auditorium or something that you need help with, we can assist. But the schools that we take over, we'll handle whatever happens at that school. Whether it's student council, basketball, like the gyms at the high school, that's our job. That's whatever happens on the premises, we take care of.
Or if it's out there in the soccer field, as long as it's on that campus, we're going to take care of it.
Let me ask you a question. Your work day, is it, to me, and I'm no expert at it, but to have somebody during the day predominantly cleaning after hours, that's kind of the way y'all function.
We have in the past, and we're doing it presently now. But again, we have schools to where we started out with some companies call them day porters. We just call them the employees we bring in either early or in the afternoons. We have some that are come in and open up. A lot of the teachers get familiar and they trust our people or their people over the years, and they'll come in and open the door, turn the lights on, and then teachers start coming in behind them. And they may work from whatever that is, 6:30, 6:45. We have some that open the gate for buses and do those things. And they work to 2 o'clock. And then we have what we call it a night supervisor. They would come in sometime at 11 o'clock, work through, help with the lunch period, work all the way through to 7 or 7:30 if we have an after hours crew that comes in. Now, when we first started, that was our way of doing business. That's what we wanted. We thought that the way that you make sure that your school is clean or any facility is best done when there's not students or teachers there. Well, we've learned through the years that it can be done if you, number one, you manage it right and you get yourself and your people familiar with the blocks, and then when you have that time to get in there, and that's dealing with the teachers and dealing with the principal and working through that. And we have some that, again, specifically in Patnell County, that we like our guys to be here during the day. We went a couple of years coming in after hours, so they said, we want you to try it during the day. So that's what we did, and it's worked. And they're happy, and their school's clean, and parents happy. So we adapted. But we can, and we know too, when you're dealing with present employees that have worked during the day, we just don't want to come in and say, this is the way we do it. It's either this way or the highway. We don't do that. We want to get your schools clean and take care of it the best way we can, but also adapt it to the workforce we have. And so far, that's worked. And but again, we used to do it one way, but now we do it 3 or 4 different ways, and it makes it work.
So usually 3 or 4 different ways. So you really sit down and discuss how we want these plans to work, and you try to meet the needs of the district.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We learned a long time ago that the best way to get a school system is do what they want to do, how they want to do it, but also give our input, because at the end of the day, if I don't get your school clean and make your teachers and parents happy and your board happy, you're not going to be there the next year. So we've adapted to that to listen to the principal, number one. We deal with, with maintenance supervisors that help us tremendously. The principals, normally we go in, if we're awarded the contract, the first thing that we want to do is go to the school and meet with the principal. And just sit with them on a one-on-one and talk with them, find out what hadn't been working, what he or she thinks might work better, and then work with them on getting a plan together to get it where they want to be. And then, of course, be accessible if they've got an issue that they can reach us and take care of problems.
What's your plan for recruiting workers here? I've been told that we've had issues with getting people to come into our system to work as custodians. So, I just want to know, what incentives do you have that may entice a person to want to choose our system?
That's an excellent question. And the industry is not where everybody's knocking on the door to get into our business. There's a lot of companies out there that want to make money to get in our business, but when you get down to the individual, drill it down to hiring the right people. It's a challenge, but if you sit down with the right, we try to deal with the best way that we get our employees is if we got employees that when we get into a system and we sit down with those employees and get a relationship with them. First off, let them know we're not going to come in there and run everybody off. We're not there to get rid of everybody and reduce their pay. And we're not. I promise you, if you call any of the systems that we have been lucky enough to get, that doesn't happen. Now, we do want you to work for honest days pay. We want honest days work. And we require that. But normally when we sit down with a staff that's already presently here, if we're lucky enough to assume some of them, then we talk with them, let them know what we do. And then first we say is, do you have someone that you would recommend? Do you have family members you recommend? Do you have acquaintances you recommend? And that's how we basically build our workforce. We do that in every system we go into. But if that doesn't work, and I've done some unorthodox things to find people. There's a lot of people that want to work. If you go out there and talk with them and say, listen, I've got a job to offer you. Are you interested? And I know this is going to, I don't think anybody from Dallas, Texas is going to be able to do this, but I've gone to cities and went to churches. I've gone to banks. I've gone to insurance companies and just ask them, do you have anybody that works for you that does you a good job that might be interested in some additional work? And I get a lot of referrals that way, especially from the churches that have people employed that want a full-time job rather than working 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week. They get referred to me or to Adam, and we hire a lot of them. I've gone and hired cooks out of restaurants in cities before. I want to offer you a better job. And one of my things, he's still with us 4 years now. If you work and we can, and everything's driven to what you get paid or what our company gets paid. But if you work and stay with us, most of our people don't leave. I've been lucky, we've just earned that relationship with them. If you work with us, you haven't got to deal with a phone, you haven't got to deal with somebody in another city that's a long way away you can't relate to. If you've got a problem, we come down and talk with them personally. We just make sure that we don't have a disconnect, and that's helped us retain so many people so far.
Any other questions, anything? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just to remind you of the numbers, and we actually went all the way through it and looking at going with these services. It's actually going to be a savings. I didn't anticipate that. I figured it would be more, but it's actually going to be less than what we have budgeted. Now, some of that's due. What I've shared that we just talked about is, we don't have full staffs, mainly at the high school, so we don't have a whole employee. That's something money. Many of those to add up. So we're not increasing the normal budget amount for these services for the two middle schools and the high school. This is a budget item. We are trying to approve a tentative budget. Are we ready to move forward or not? Or where
I
are we?
think we have some custodians here tonight that may have some concerns, and I would like to know if it's okay if they want to share their concern. They can share whatever their concern is, because this is the time to ask a question if y'all got a question, and it's okay, because this is your livelihood.
I wasn't aware that obsolete was a problem. I didn't know. And also, say that they go through subcontract. And I was told we work up to a year and y'all can get rid of us, do away with our benefits and everything. But we the ones, most of us the ones that have worked over 10 years. So we sort of like, feel like we've been thrown under the bus. And also, I do a little bit of evening work for the Board of Education and all that, how that's gonna affect me. Working with school and doing that in the evening time.
We have, multiple people that work for us that, in Toombs County, we just took over their last 5 or 6 janitors this past year. Some of those have been there 15, 20 years, and they were at the same board meeting, that you, just like this, and I understand your concern. They were doing extra work and making extra money, you know. We have a lot of people that work with us, and they come in and say, like, on a 6-2 shift. Typically, we have folks come in and open up the school. They'll handle the breakfast and do certain things and work through lunch, and they're shipping in, you know, it is hours, whatever their start time was, 6 to, or 6:30, 2:30. And a lot of those, when they get extra money, they may go over to a different school and work 4 hours. You know?
And that's what I'm concerned is, like my job consists of coming in the morning time and open up everything, turning on everything. And I'm there from like 4:47 to about 3:15. So in between there, I get a little rest, and then I do the evening work, the board work, clean up the office buildings and everything. And so, like, for instance, they having a problem with the high school, can't y'all employ one of us to go over there and pitch in and help over there?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, if we knew it from the get-go, I think some of us would get it. Anyway, we didn't know, I didn't know it was a problem over there at the high school.
We have multiple people in the company that work two locations for us.
Right.
And it depends on their time. You know, if we have somebody that works 11 to 7, 11:30 to 7:30, they may come in and work the morning shift at a different school. You know, anybody who wants to work, we appreciate that much more. You know?
I mean, over there, I mean, this is good school there. We got the, like I say, I come in the morning time, I'm the only one there. Open up and everything. And then the next person come in, so it's spaced out over there. And then we all don't meet at the same time. So it's pretty much spaced out over there. And then, of course, like, you know, if you get somebody new over there, me or Miss Nettie would take them and, not to say train them, but show them until they catch on.
Right.
You know, it's just a bad feeling that we think we're not to do our job. We at this age now, all us in here, we're moving a little slower, but we appreciate this job here. And the little extra job that I have on the time, it means a lot to me. And I try to give 100%. So far, I haven't had no complaints about that.
I give you my word, you'll have every opportunity to work as much as you want. And it may be a different location or maybe the same location.
Also, you saying you're gonna switch us around to,
No, I'm just saying, if you work off the Williams and then, you know, we have something need over the high school you have to do, if you're available, you know, if it's something that you would like to do, willing to do, you know, we definitely entertain.
okay, because I think we got some that's willing to do it now that we know what was going on at the high school. You know, if we able to do it a little before, it would have pitched in and, but like I said, I'm already working in the evening time, but the rest of them would like to, what I am doing. So what about, I pay stay the same?
I don't know what you can say. I mean, I know that most everybody that we have makes what they make or makes more.
Oh,
You know, we want to keep good people. We're going to save you money on the benefits part of it. I'll be glad to put you in touch with the janitors that we just took over from Denty County. That
no, we good, we got a good team over
well,
there.
I'm just saying, let you talk to those guys. You know that it's the same position you're in, and they'll tell you that they're glad that the move was made. You know, and they've been with the school system 25, 35 years. You know, our oldest janitor is probably pushing, what's that old this year, probably 75, you know. So we have come, you know, and she, first of all, she got a good attitude. That's what we're looking for. anybody's got a good attitude and willing to show up, you know, that's half the battle. So, you know, we'll work with you on what we need to do, to train and make sure everybody, you know, we gotta get it clean. So, you know, we're looking for good people who want to work.
But I can say, Lee was a team school. That I can say. You know, I mean, like I say, he wasn't aware about the high school, you know, that came up with something, pitched in.
So you're saying, sir, the way I understand it, that, or not understand it, I guess I actually have a question. If we have an employee that wants to remain on as a custodian, but we want to keep that custodian on as a Wayne County employee, I'm just hypothetically, because I just heard you say that y'all just took 5 more on. Even if they're at the site, let's say at Martha Puckett or the high school, would they be able to still be able to work at that site, but still be under the Wayne County Board of Education system?
We have, the last 5, most schools, at this point, most schools that we have, we're all inclusive. It got to the point of this last school system in Toombs County that they had 5 janitors out of all of them that were theirs, and we had the rest. There was, just being honest with you, there were some issues about whose job it was to do this, or this. So the superintendent board had to make a decision either to take it all back up in-house or to give them all to us. We took them all over, just because it was just, and I'm not saying it couldn't work. I'm not saying we're not willing to try anything. It's just that, there has to be a good communication and a very good understanding of who is expected to do what. You understand what I'm saying?
Job description.
Job description and what their duties are. You know, and we have that understanding, you know, at all our places, but it was just, you know, because, and we've been at Toombs County the longest, probably 12 or 13 years, and there had been so much change just from the administrative standpoint. You know, each time that, you know, you may have this principal to move over to this school and this and that, and they'd come in and they'd change the duties of their janitors, you know, which would in turn change the duties of for us, which we didn't mind, but, you know, if we had to start adding people, then we need to start charging. You understand what I'm saying? So it's mainly about scope of services, job description, and so forth. But, you know, we did it on these 3 schools to pretty much be all inclusive, you know, take care of anything that happened at school, from the, you know, from the stripping and waxing floors during the summer to even doing it during the Christmas, and we'll actually do all the common areas during Christmas holidays, you know, so they're done twice a year. And we have full-time folks that report to our office every day, you know, so if we have a supervisor or someone, or we know, you know, Miss Jean or Mr. John, if somebody's going to be out, we put a plan in place, but we have emergency plans backup. I mean, and if we need to, we'll send 2 full-time people down here, you know, to help with that day. And that's their job. They're trained at every school. And as we take on school system, we add more help at the office for this. You know, because now if you got a janitor that's sick and gets out, what do? You do nothing. I mean, you know, you try to get them to pitch in. But it doesn't work bad for us. If they're ours and they get sick and out, the principal or somebody won't know what we're going to do. So we're going to send somebody.
Now, how long does a classified employee have to be employed with the school system of the state for retirement, to be eligible for retirement?
They're on ERS, it's a different
Right.
retirement system, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. 10 years for TRS. I don't know if ERS is the same way. I'm not sure.
I asked that question. I know you're looking like, why did I ask that question? I asked that question because I was just wondering if you had an individual that was eligible for it, and decided that they wanted to retire, could they still go and work for your company? Because they would no longer be employees of the Wayne County school system, and they would be able to still draw a full-time paycheck as well as draw their retirement as well. Kind of like we do at 49%.
I'm not sure about those rules. But I would think if they're not part of it, you're not contributing to that system, I think you're done with that system, if you are, but I'm not sure about the,
Yeah, because they're not employees of the Wayne County Board of Education
Right,
anymore. They would be
I don't know if
employees of.
there's rules, just like when you retire,
Mhm.
you can't go back to a public school system instead of Georgia, to a private or whatnot. You know, there's rules to it, so I don't know about classified employees, what the rules are, and TRS. That's not me thinking.
Okay.
With me, with TRS, I work full time. I still work my time.
Yeah, but you don't work full time within the school system. Like I teach at Bradwell, but I can only work 49%.
I would think they could work.
They even split my coaching in half, and they probably need to pay me for 5 more years. All that time.
Thank you. But I don't know that system.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I would like to take a few more, days to discuss this. I honestly would like to, as we did with bus drivers, we had you go down and have a few conversations, with the bus drivers, and I would like for you to have some conversations with custodians, just to give us some feedback. I appreciate that are here to give us some input, but there are a lot of concerns. I've had some phone calls, I've had some conversations, and I thank y'all for coming to do the presentation tonight and give us some of, answer some of our concerns and questions. But I just want to take a few more days to think about some of the things, and the issues of the board. I hope that y'all want to have some further discussions about some of these things before we make a full commitment to this. It sounds good in theory, but when we started this out, the main focus for me as a board member was the high school. I know we talked about some different things with the middle school and really having some all-inclusive plans. And it wasn't that employees aren't, getting the job done as far as them not doing the job. It was so much work and not enough employees to do it. And that's why things were being left undone. And so while our colleagues didn't know some issues, I think, there should have been more communication to see how we could get some help over there. And I know that there were some people that did step up and go over the help, but I just want to have some further conversations to make sure that we are bringing everybody on board with whatever decision that we're making. Because I don't have to show up and work. These custodians and janitors who have given so many years to the district are the people that are going to have to make this change. My decision is not going to affect me. It's going to affect these individuals. And so I definitely want to make sure that we have those conversations before we do it.
So you're saying you would like for one of these gentlemen to meet
No,
with them, or? Okay.
From what I understand, when we first started, the number one concern of ours was our own custodians. Make sure we took care of
Mm-hmm.
If I'm understanding what I hear about, they're looking for people that are working. Our custodians not gonna lose a job if they want to work. It sounds to me like. Am I understanding that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm good with it.
Well, I brought up the thing about the retirement and everything because of, of that and, as well. I mean, I thought it was a cut and dry thing. I thought it was a very good idea. And I talked to some today and I told them, said, initially I thought it was a very good idea. But when you start hearing things from different people and they start bringing up different concerns, then you realize that, that's something I didn't think about. That's something that we didn't think about. So I understand what Nick is saying about talking to the custodian so you can get their concerns and everything. And I just don't want to be that person that looks down on somebody and act as though that their thoughts and their feelings don't matter, because you're going to get better response out of individuals and more dedication out of them by treating them as a person than just, oh, that's just a number or employee. We're an educational system, and that's one of the things about an educational system that is different and I'm proud of than any other corporation, is that we look out for our own. That's the reason why we still have teacher retirement today, because we don't go, okay, yeah, we're going to take a payout and not worry about Joe that's coming in. And just like we do with our teachers, I want to have that same respect for our custodians who make sure that everything is, straight for us every day. Cleanliness is, as they say, next to godliness. And if you ain't clean, we're gonna be sick. And I've seen those ladies work because I worked at school with them. Did a great job.
What's the longest y'all served one system?
We've been at two now for 12 years.
That's what I thought I heard you say something.
About 8, probably right behind within a year.
That's pretty staggering. I think we all have the same concern. We're a small community, and just like y'all are from the Vidalia area, we want to take care of our own people. But I always told my custodians, you were probably the most important person in my building, because I'm a firm believer you only get one chance to make a first impression. And that is the first impression, is our buildings. And I've got some concern about the high school. I'll just tell it like it is. But it's not what we want. So I don't have any problem to look into. I mean, we mess with people's lives and livelihood. When do you need something answered, Dr. Branson?
As soon as possible. Well, I was hoping to approve the tentative budget tonight, but, I guess we can leave that amount in there, based on the numbers these gentlemen shared with us. It's not an increase, so I guess we could leave that placeholder amount in there. Just knowing that there is a little bit of apples to oranges this is a problem for us. We just hadn't come up legally yet. But when you're allowing employees, and by necessity we're having to. When you allow employees to get massive amounts of overtime, which is what we're doing, you run the risk of some kind of claim where you're not allowing somebody else to get the same amount of opportunity to get overtime you let this person get. That's an issue with fair labor standards, folks. So I'm just telling you that in that number, I'm talking about if we're going to use the outside system to help do some of that setup. That's going to be an added cost. I just didn't want that number. If we decide to go that way, we just put that number in there. At the end of the year, it's over. That would be the reason why. But again, this whole effort was to try to improve what we're doing across the board, all the way through. I look at it as a plus for the employees, but if they don't see it that way, then we'll keep doing like we're going. So, but I'll meet with them. I'll speak to them. I'll have a meeting. Of course, listen to them, write down the concerns. And if it's not something we want to do, then we'll go on to do it. It's not that complicated. So.
Is there any way that if you decide to meet with them, maybe you all could have a package, or you can have them to come and talk to the group as well, so they can have a full understanding, what's going on. It's nothing like that firsthand information versus that secondhand information. That way nothing gets misconstrued. If they got questions to ask them, they can ask them those questions and they can answer them for them. Because that's going to be their employee. Okay.
I want to make sure our custodians know too. I don't misunderstand. I certainly don't look down on y'all. I don't want nobody to think I said that. I was about to say just what Mr. Mack said. Custodians will make you or break you. We appreciate what our custodians do. We just want to help.
Stakeholders. Yeah, this is a process we go through every year for our district improvement plans. Trickle down our school improvement plans, and we certainly want to have our outside stakeholders. This is a chance. I hear we can talk about that a lot in here. We need to get outside stakeholders to have an input to speak. that sort of thing. Well, this is that opportunity. So, Denny, you want to go through what we have right now?
Sure. I can't see Mr. Mack if I stand behind the podium.
That's
I'm gonna
fine.
stand right here and I'll use my teacher voice. So you all have probably all served on a stakeholder committee, or maybe not for the school system, but maybe for our county or our city. I'd served as a stakeholder for our city and county just this year. So, you know, sometimes when we are making our plans, and this is all part of our comprehensive needs assessment, which goes into our district improvement plan and our school improvement plans. You want to make sure that you're getting outside voices. You want to make sure that your only perspective is not the perspective of the person who's worked in, you know, schools for 29 years. And so we ask stakeholders to get involved. And so we've done this for years. This is not a new thing to have stakeholders, but we are trying to change the way we use those stakeholders a little bit, because sometimes people will come in and they are very kind and they will sit through us talking about all of these different things that we want to do in instruction, for example. And they'll say, but I'm not a school teacher, so I don't know, you know, really what I can offer to this conversation. But if y'all think this is a good thing, you know, I'm willing to sign off and give it my rubber stamp. And so, and we appreciate the fact that people have been willing to do that for us for many years. But we want to change the way that looks a little bit and maybe get a little different perspective. Ms. Heron, if you'll advance. We have 5 stakeholder focus groups. And so this is one of the changes. We want to give our stakeholders an opportunity to tell us which group they're most interested in, which group that they think they have the most to offer. And so our 5 groups are teacher quality, and that group is really going to be looking at how to recruit, induct, and retain quality teachers. The next group is safe and healthy environment. And of course, that group will be looking at what makes our schools safe and healthy. And now more than ever before, that's going to be a really important topic. That group will help us look at our protocols and all of our protocols that deal with creating that safe and healthy environment. There's the academic achievement and well-rounded opportunities. And so, of course, that deals with anything with our curriculum instruction, but it also deals with things outside of curriculum and instruction, extracurricular activities, those things that we know help make a well-rounded student. There is the Ensuring Equity Committee, and that committee will look at innovative ways to ensure that we have equitable opportunities for all of our students. And then there's the Strategic Planning Committee. And that's really the committee that focuses on the future. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? And what do we need to do to get there? And so those are our different groups. Thank you, Ms. Heron. The way that we hope stakeholder engagement, look, let me go back and say one thing. You don't have to scroll backwards. One of the things, though, that is going to be different is instead of laying out our plan and saying, okay, this is our plan, what would you change? What would you like to make better? Or are you okay with it? Our first question that we want to ask people is, for example, if they are on the teacher quality committee, we want to say, what do you think your role should be on this committee? And what do you bring to offer to this committee? And so, you know, we've already asked them to choose one of those committees, which are you most interested in. So this is their opportunity to say, this is why I think I have something to offer in this conversation about teacher quality. Maybe they work with recruiting in their business or in their industry, and they have some things that they can teach us about how they recruit people in that industry. And so I think our first question is really different. Dr. Gordon and I were talking about this, and we wondered, should we have that question first, or should we first let them make suggestions. And I think we decided that we liked people coming from the perspective of what they have to offer that helps make it stronger as a whole community. So here are some other things that we hope will be a little bit different. There's that choice. We're not just asking you to look at all 5 of our committees anymore. We're going to ask you to look at one that you're really interested in. We're going to limit the physical meetings and do more interaction through virtual means. Of course, COVID-19 has forced us to do a lot of that, but we had a really interesting experience with one of our parent involvement teacher, that's not their title anyway, who got a lot of excellent feedback from the high school teachers through virtual meetings, just through a Google Doc. I've been in lots of teacher meetings in my 29-year career, and I have never seen such thoughtful, reflective answers on a questionnaire like that. I was really so impressed with it, and so I'm very convinced that we can get good, positive interaction through virtual means. That also lets people engage when it's convenient for them to do so. They don't have to show up at the Wayne County Tech Center at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. They may have 15 other things on their to-do list. And so we're excited about offering more virtual opportunities, which we think will provide more opportunities for input. We want to ask more open-ended questions, not just have surveys where people fill out a scale of 1 to 5, but more open-ended questions so that people can actually say, I'm really concerned about X, Y, Z. And we hope to have a little bit of a faster pace, that once something goes out, instead of having 3 or 4 weeks to respond, there's a little bit of a faster turnaround time. We think that gives a little more of a sense of urgency, and it doesn't allow people to kind of forget about what they've been asked to do. You know, if they have 4 days to turn it around, then we think that we'll get some better responses like that. So we already have on our list of stakeholders a large number of people, but we wanted to, we made that list of stakeholders in a variety of ways. We have a lot of people at the Board of Education who are involved in lots of areas of our community, and so we often get our stakeholders like that. But there may be somebody out there, you may have a neighbor or somebody that you're in church with that you think, I think that they really have something to offer for one of those things. And so we'd like to give you the opportunity to recommend people, or if you may, as a board member, have had people say, I'd really like to get involved somehow. What's a way that I could get involved? And so Dr. Gordon has created a Google form, and I'm going to email y'all this link because it's long and it would be a long one to write down. And that way, if you know of somebody who may be interested, you can just forward that link out to them. We are going to try to finalize all of this by about June 23rd. And so if you know of somebody who wants to serve as a stakeholder, all they have to do is go to that link, they put in their contact information, and they select the focus group that they want to serve on. It's very, very simple and easy to access. And so I'll send all of you that in your school email so that you can forward that out. Any of y'all who are here tonight, if you're interested in serving, we would love to have you serve as stakeholders, and that link is, of course, available. Questions? I would be remiss if I sat down without bragging a little bit on Dr. Gordon, and she'll probably be mad at me for doing this, but Dr. Gordon has really helped us move forward so much in all that we do with federal programs. And the comprehensive needs assessment is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I just really feel like we're at a place now in Wayne County where that comprehensive needs assessment is working for us instead of us working for it. Now, we do work hard on it, but under her leadership, I just feel like we've come a long ways and we've really turned that process around. And so I like to give credit where credit is due. And so I appreciate all the hard work on that too. So I'll send y'all an email if you know somebody who's interested in serving, forward it to them so we can break it down. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
I will say one thing that Denny has taught me, keeps on repeating, which is what this is all about, is moving from compliance to engagement. We've talked about that a lot. We started out, this is what we've got to do to check the box to send it to the state. And then we started to self-reflect and decided, do we want to just check the box or do we really want the input of people in our community? So, thank you for anything you can do to help us recruit some.
Is this part of that we were gonna do before the COVID?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
All of you are members, by the way.
we were gonna meet at the end of April.
Right.
Back in August.
Graduation. Yeah, just want to discuss these next two items, graduation plans and opening of the school. Just to kind of update you where we are. The governor's coming out maybe tomorrow, but probably Thursday with another conference. The executive order we're under now, the state's under now, expires Friday. So we look for him to give us some more direction. Water cooler talk is that he may loosen things up even further. Or he can just extend exactly what we have in place now for another 2 weeks. That's kind of been the norm. So we'll see. And I shared this document with you already. I'm skipping ahead about the Department of Health and the Department of Education about reopening schools. I mention that now because we're talking about graduations plans, and we really our seniors have lost so much during this time, and they lost whole athletic seasons, senior events, and that sort of thing. We want to do everything we can to have a live graduation of some sorts in July. If things keep progressing like they're going, and it certainly can change at any time, I really don't see any reason not to have a live graduation in JC Stadium. Decision we have to make, are we going to have limited attendance or not? Because the fact is, I just have a hard time saying, no, we can't have a live graduation on July 18th, and then 2 weeks later, we're having a Friday night football game out there. That's what's scheduled right now. I don't know how much is 2 weeks going to make. I don't think very much. Where everything's headed in discussions we've had with superintendents and really other leadership around the state with Georgia Superintendent Association, GSBA, and those folks that we really lean on for guidance. No, there's still not a vaccine. They are making some progress with some of the treatments. There's still not an FDA-approved treatment for COVID-19, but the treatment is improving. And so it's coming down to, until they get a vaccine, it's going to come down to personal decisions. So, a live graduation in the stadium, when we do a media blast and really encourage people that, go by the guidelines that are 60 or over, have a pre-existing medical condition, please don't, we're going to live stream it, please, stay home and watch it that way. Don't put yourself in harm's way potential. So we can cut down, the seats, we seat about 4,000 people in the stadium all the way around. Of course, there's standing room around there that houses even more. So just some math numbers, if we limited to 6 tickets per senior, which is that's a pretty good group. That only gives you less than 2,000 people in the stadium. We've done that limited attendance at graduation before. I don't know, Max, Harris was part of it that we had. There's still some hard feelings today about some folks that didn't get to attend their seniors' graduation. So that would be an issue if we do that. But it's hard to gauge exactly what kind of guidance we're going to be under, or what our specific county situation is going to be under, month, 6 weeks from now, whatever it is, before July 18th.
Saturday morning, but, we could do 4 tickets, that's even less, that's about 1,300 attendees, and we could certainly, you could do some social distancing, limited to that. We could put some tape down, and ask people, please don't sit where the next one in the seat. There's got to be, to do something like that, there's got to be some personal responsibility, and there comes a point that you only have so much control. I mean, there's only so many, we don't want to put our officers in a situation where they're having to be aggressive because somebody's cutting up. We don't want to create a hostile environment. Everybody's a little on edge nowadays anyway. So I think we just need to be careful with that and acknowledge it. That's thoughts. We also do a graduation on the field with nobody. I don't like that out there very much.
You might as well not do one if nobody's gonna be there.
Yeah. So, before we go there, we probably want to entertain the drive-through. We do have that's not a real complicated process. We've looked at it, just it's about communicating, getting everybody ready, let them decorate the car. They can come through the track and maybe, everybody else stays in the car. Maybe the senior, we can set it up right there at the edge. And the senior can hop out and give them the phone. They hop back in and go on out. We just kind of have a steady flow through the stadium. That's something we've also hashed out and put together. We had to. I think we need to wait a little bit longer. It's too far out. So, thoughts? I think we ought to stick with the plan, having one at the stadium. People's gonna come if they want to come, but there's gonna be a lot. And I say it's based off of church last Sunday. We decided to start our works last Sunday at Calvary. We were prepared for about 200 because we thought that might. We didn't have that. We had 100 or so, maybe a little better. But I think people that have a concern about being in a group of people will not go. I agree. I do think if we did that, the attendance would be a lot lower. It's pretty packed out here. Naturally, mom and dad and grandma won't be there, and I understand that completely. I was graduating, I won't be there too, but it's for the seniors. I think we ought to do everything we can to have one on the field as good as we can possibly have.
It is for the seniors, but the thing about it being for the seniors, they want to, part of that is to be able to have that experience to say, my grandparents came. I remember my boys' grandparents came to the graduation, and they were just so excited that their grandparents from Mississippi got to see them graduate. When Eric graduated, he was part of that crew that we had 4 tickets. I was in there. The 2 grandparents were in there, and the aunt from Mississippi was in there. My sisters sat in the auditorium, and not auditorium, yeah, the auditorium, and and watched it. It is what it is, and they understood that, hey, it's raining outside. Well, guess what, folks? It's raining outside. It's just COVID-19. But I think we need to plan, not just wait to plan. You need to plan for each thing that may arise. That's just like if somebody was in the military and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do in case of attack. They're going to look at every possibility that may happen, and they're going to plan for that. And that's all I'm saying is that I'm not saying that we, just X that out. I'm just saying plan, have those alternate plans. Plan A, plan B, plan C. And then also the public knows that you got a plan A, plan B, and plan C. And understand that, okay, it may not be this based on whatever the situation and circumstances may be. It may be plan C.
Yeah, I do agree with getting that information out. After speaking with several of the community leaders, and I'm talking in reference to the mayors of all 3 cities and our chairman of county commissioners, city manager, they were, in support of us doing some type of live open graduation. Sheriff and the chief both supported it and have assured that we'll have police officers and deputies there to work security and to help us with any type of enforcement that we needed. And not in this mind frame of enforcing this, social distancing, but more so to give guidance and give people advice on what to do. And I think the majority of the people that I've seen out in the community and attending different events already are using their social distancing, are wearing their masks. And this is another opportunity where people have to be responsible in wearing those, those masks and maintaining their distance. And the people that want to be there are going to be there, and the people that are not ready yet, will stay home. But an overwhelming number of seniors, I've had to dash refunds last week, and every one of them that came up, over 100 kids, we still have some more, that every one of them that came up with them and their parents talked about this board. They commended the board waiting until later on to do their graduation to give them this last moment. And I'm the parents, their grandparents, and seniors. I've also talked to kids, seniors who served on our student advisory board, and they said the same thing. They appreciate this board for not canceling graduation like other school districts did and giving them this opportunity. So, and I stand firm in this. I helped Dr. Brinson, Ms. Renee, Dr. McDaniel, come up with some of these plans. We talked about how we can do it, set it up. I think our maintenance team is ready to set this field up how we need to do it, and putting tape down. I'm not above going out there helping them do it. So whatever we got to do to maintain safety, but giving these seniors the opportunity to have their graduation, top priority.
And how many cases are we at now?
30.
30? That's about 15 since the last time I looked at it. Yeah. Because it was 20, what's the day? Tuesday, it was 20, like Friday or something. So it ain't gone. That's the reason why I asked that question.
No, it's not going.
So we just have to be careful. I just hate to do something and then boom. You just gotta be careful. And like you say, can Ms. Kelly address us?
No, I was just responding to, COVID.
You can if we
No, I
grant
understand
it.
that everybody
You can.
wants a graduation. But
It's on the
it's taking
agenda.
a toll on the black youth. And you just can't say, well, those that want to come, and those that don't want to come. You said, you come, they are grandparents who are going back to the art. And this thing is serious. So to say, we're gonna do it, and those that want to come, and those that don't want to come, I don't think that's a good way to feel about the whole graduation. Because if you transition from one person to the next person to the next, these children are there, they graduate, they got to go out with their aunts, their grandmothers, so they can be given the diagnosis. So we just need to be careful when we decide to have a full-blown graduation. Then you look at kids that we are with, that kids
Right?
oh, yeah.
And that's the struggle I'm having with, based on the guidance we've got from the Department of Education, Department of Health. I mean, we're going back to traditional school, okay? Which means we're putting them on the buses. You're only talking about, 3 weeks after this graduation. And I agree with what you're saying. I get you 100%. Yeah, the youth are not the ones at risk. It's not the ones that are older folks, people with medical conditions, and that has affected African American community and exponentially more. So I don't know. I don't have the exact answer. And you're right. I don't want to do anything that starts the outbreak, of course, but do we stay locked down, or do we get back to educating kids and do it? So I don't know. So.
And on top of that, I forgot to mention, Dr. Brinson, that Commissioner Hickox and Joe Riley has offered to show this graduation. We have it live, to have it still shown at the drive-in and at the hospital for people who pull up and they're going to display it for people who are not ready to attend the live graduation. So they have committed to that they will be a part of that. We will just be responsible for having somebody to record and be able to have it. They do have that.
To show it later on.
No. They want to show it live while it's going.
At 10 in the morning, how they gonna show it at the drive-in?
That's what he said. What he said, he said that he would help you with
Maybe you gotta figure out a way.
I don't understand all this modern technology, but I'd like to see that.
Strong protector.
By opening school, this document is something that we've already started grinding through. It's divided up into several different areas, and so we've kind of got a little small committee on each one of them that's, as far as practice and prevention, transport students, entering the building, serving meals, transition, and large group gatherings, which is what we're really talking about here. And of course, teaching and learning still needs to occur. We're still having school. So we're trying to see what we can put in place to further. It's not going to be 100% preventative, but we're looking to do everything we can to cut down the exposure as much as we can. There's no way to social distance on a bus unless the only option we have, to do that on our buses, we just would bring kids to school and turn around in an hour and start taking them back home. If we were going to do that, then the only solution we've come up with is that we just don't transport kids within a mile and a half of the school they attend. I don't know that we want to go down that road. Because by law, we don't have to provide transportation to.
Ain't people snatching kids these days? Nope.
So that's the things that we're trying to do. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to clean buses every single day. And after the route, we're going to drive down the road for a mile or two with the windows down to air them out, and then carry them back, wipe them down, and put the what you call the fogger, Ghostbuster looking gun thing that's, puts a mist to, to try to cut down. Is that 100% reliable? No, but it's better than not doing anything. So, and that's basically what you're doing throughout and everything that we're doing. So we're working on that, and then we'll come up with our own document that's going to basically look like this when it's at the Wayne County's, recovery plan and going back to school, and it all will hinge on what do we identify it as a low or no spread, minimal, moderate spread, or a substantial, severe outbreak, severe spread. They got specific things for each one of those kind of groupings. Names talking about it, where we think we would fall. I would think we would fall in low and no spread, and these are all recommendations. These are not mandates. So it's going to come down to us as a governor's team to decide exactly what we can, support and what we want to look like. So once we get to that point, then we'll communicate it out.
So we're gonna make a plan for each stage.
Yes, we're working on that.
I'm working on that.
And all it is you're basically just that in between is the one that's real taxing, whether you're going to put some more things in place, or you're going to do more hybrid, where you're going to have maybe more students at home, or you're doing some kind of alternate schedule with students and things like that. It's going to be tough to manage.
This is,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, and I've had 10,000 questions from 10,000 people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And of course, all the questions are, what are you going to do about lunch? Are you eating lunch in the classroom? Are you scheduling lunch where it's staggered a little bit more, or you're doing sack lunches? The parents are asking these questions. Are you going to take the temperature of the kids before they get on the bus, or are you going to take their temperatures after they get to school? What are you going to do in these situations? Because honestly, we should have took temperatures at the door today. We didn't, but those are some of the things that we really have to think about. Right. I went to a friend's house the other day, and the mother met me at the door with the gun. You're okay, Miss Daniel, you can come in.
Yeah. We'll have to decide what's practical, what can be done, and what's not practical. So
it becomes serious when you somebody that you personally know somebody that has died from this. It becomes real.
I understand. Questions?
Miss Lawson has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Chair, Dr. Brinson, and board members. As a parent, when do you plan on having a tentative date for this plan for Wayne County? And when you create this plan, when are you going to communicate it to the parents? What's the time frame you're looking at? Because July is almost here.
Yeah, but we got this guy this, last Friday or sometime last week.
Mhm.
So, we're working on it now. We have our committees and we're meeting tomorrow to kind of check and see. It's not gonna take an inordinate amount of time. But right now, we're gonna start school as planned on the calendar. It's gonna look like this as of right now, with all these things that we have in place, and then we'll have to, it's got everything in here from, the ones that we're gonna start off with, really have focus on is our, medically fragile kids that maybe don't meet hospital homebound criteria. That's gonna have to be expanded out. So we're working on plans for that.
Okay, and with this plan, what other stakeholders other than employees of your district that are you gonna have on these committees? Will you have some health officials or parents or something?
No, we're not,
Parents
not in the
want
past, not this, not in the school business part we want. Now, once we kind of get a framework of a plan together, we'll bring it to the city leaders. We have it there, our county officials, elected officials, appointed officials, and then also the, Dr. Parks, our Department of Health, district director, don't have to bless it, and we'll come to the board and kind of, make sure they can support it. And then we'll roll out communicating. The parents have to make, it's gonna come to where parents have to make a choice whether they are comfortable with their child coming back to school or not, with what we have in place.
And one more question, as it relates to what you just said, the parents making a choice, for those parents who may not choose to do that, are you all concerned about those FTE dollars or
Sure.
lose if they decide to stay home?
That's right. You're right about that. But what we can't do is, we can't, just like we can't do with our employees, we're not gonna be able to tell our employees, come to work if you want to, like we did in the spring. Same thing with students, we don't have enough personnel to have, an inordinate amount of kids. I mean, just gonna teach them, we got people that have, we got to have, regular school, we don't have the staff or the capacity to also be teaching a large amount either. So we gotta be careful with our presentation. We're gonna start off with traditional school and then go from there.
So digital is not an option for people that decide to stay home so that you can still get those FTE dollars.
I would say that, but I don't think we approach it from the dollar standpoint with that. Okay. We know that there's gonna be some kids that we're gonna have to do some distance learning with, for health reasons. We're not gonna ask any medically fragile child or any situation, dictate that we're not gonna work out some kind of distance learning.
This kind of as comes up for certain.
The thinking on that, whether it's or not, is to attack the masses, and then that small group, we got situations, we're gonna have to address that, and we know we have to put some money and resources behind that. We're hoping that's gonna be a smaller group.
Would you use some of the CARES money for that?
Yeah, the CARES money, the problem with the CARES money, everybody's not really, the answer is yes. The problem with the CARES money is, for Wayne County, they hear, we got $1.5 million. Well, we're also getting cut from the state $5 million, so that money, all you're doing is offsetting the stuff a little bit. But we are, we're making some huge purchases technology-wise. We're not one-to-one in our systems. We're working toward, moving the needle on that for Chromebooks and connectivity and care, because if we do have a substantial outbreak, we are going to, they'll shut it down. We don't have to shut it down completely and go back to what we did in the spring. We do have a better, we're going to purchase some ingenuity, which is something we use credit coverage, that sort of thing. We're actually going to purchase the 3.5 elementary phone now. We already use 612 of the bid. We're going to have 3.5 for ELA and math and those things. We're working on it. That's part of the plan.
I guess this is an Amy question, ain't it? Are we gonna have some professional development for teachers to prepare them for hopefully, hypothetically, the next round of COVID in case we have to shut down again, so that we can have meaningful, you know what I'm saying, meaningful learning and everything? I know there are some people who are very proficient in it, and they actually taught classes, with video. So the parents they were not so stressed out because the kids were able to communicate with the teacher and ask questions about, I don't understand the Pythagorean theorem, or I don't understand, verbs and nouns, or what I need to do with predicate. I don't even know if they teach it that way anymore, but you know what I'm saying. So,
Yes, we've already, told our teachers before they went home for the summer that every teacher will be required to begin the school year with an active Google Classroom.
mhm.
Hopefully, we'll have plenty of time so that, students can go ahead and, even while we're in regular school, turn some things in for a Google Classroom. Parents will have an opportunity to, get used to it in case we have to go back home again, if there's a wintertime spike or whatever. We've also asked our instructional coaches and all of our administrators to make sure that they take advantage of some of the recorded RESA professional learning, because we need for our instructional coaches and our administrators to really be experts so that we can provide good support for our teachers with the Google Classroom tool. We've also made those RESA, the RESA sessions are available to everybody anyway, but we've made sure that our teachers understand that those sessions are recorded and archived so that they could, begin following up on those things over the summertime. But we will be providing extra support when we come back to school for that, and our instructional coaches know that that's going to be a big part of what they need to do.
So Lisa has some videos on the Google Classroom.
Yeah, and they did the RESA started almost right after March 13th or whenever
Okay.
they had to go home. And they're very user friendly. They're only about 45 minutes to an hour, and so you can get little small doses. And they have like Google Classroom 1, Google
Mhm.
Classroom 2, and so it helps you build. I've been watching the ones on Google Sites because actually all of the experts recommend that for young children, Google Sites is probably more appropriate than Google Classroom because of the amount of assistance that they need from an adult. And so it's been really quality. Daniel Rivera is excellent. He's there. He does a great job, and I think that they've been really responsive. And one of the great things about those RESA sessions is that a lot of them are led by classroom teachers who are already having a lot of success with these kinds of things in their classrooms. And so it's not the case where you can say, well, of course Daniel can do all that, he's a tech specialist, but there's somebody that teachers can relate to. This is another teacher who teaches 4th grade in the next county, who volunteered to do this. And so I'm really impressed with what they put out there, and it is a way that teachers need a little bit of their summer, and then they start getting ready to want to start thinking about the next school year. That's just the nature of the beast. And so this is a way that they can go ahead and get prepared, and that we ask for them. When you get to that point and you're ready to start doing some professional growth over the summer, please let it be in this area.
Thank you.
I've also, Princeton Board, Ms. Valerie Wilson, should be getting an email in the next couple of days. She's also going to be sending out some guidance and for us as board members to have in making the decision to reopen school on that. They're put together with the Superintendent Association. So she's going to give that on top of what Dr. Gibson received and has sent to us. So we have multiple groups advocating and looking at this from a lot of different angles to make sure that we have the information we need. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be the governance team that makes a decision for each district on how they will be open.
All right, any other questions, or are we ready to discuss budget? Just, on the budget, just to let you know, of course, we're looking, we're able to make some cuts and move some things around, and we're trying to be creative as far as the general fund. That number we brought to you a couple of weeks ago, showing a deficit of
about 6.9. Going into next year, we do have that whittled down some. What I mean by that is we're planning to make some pretty strong cuts to technology, maintenance and operation, and basic professional development. We have some dire needs that we just absolutely have to take care of. You know, some of those purchases, could be taken out of each plus if absolutely necessary, such as technology. There's purchases there. We got that CARES Act money that we can also use to purchase those type of items. Some things that we're also going to continue doing throughout the year. For example, there's a teacher opening in the system. Talking to the principal, feel like, you know what, not really concerned about testing going into this year. We really don't want to hire a warm body like it's the middle of June. We got to open in it's a math teacher, and they're hard to find. Instead of just maybe hiring somebody that's subpar, feel like we can kind of address that open and absorb it in with some scheduling and maybe increase the class sizes, a couple of kids, and cut down on some of the support classes. At least this first semester, kind of get in front of the line to hire the best of the best, maybe coming out in January at high school math. So that would be a savings, along with working with Dr. Gordon. There's some things that we might move around personnel wise. That's, you're talking about good money. We start moving personnel out of our general budget, and it turns into a federal funds budget item. Federal funds are very particular what you can use it for. There's a lot of things that have to go through it, but we may have to just do a little more paperwork and reorganize to do some things. So we're studying that hard, not just for this year, but also going into next year. There's some things I think we can do going into not this year, but maybe 21-22 school year with how we're managing our subs and absences and that sort of thing. I think that's going to be a big savings for us too. If we kind of go back to the old way we did it, I think reduce your quality a little bit, but it may be a cut we need to make for money. So I'll let Mr. Aldridge take it over here in just a minute, but you'll look and see that general fund. We have reduced that 6.9 down to 5.8. That's the bottom line. That's what I'm looking for, is potentially coming out of fund equity. All right, and basically that's not including the CARES Act money. So you could really, if you want to look at bottom line like I do, I have to be simple with it. You really reduce that another 1.5. So now you're getting down into 4.3. And I'm very optimistic about some of the things we know the money's going to be tight. Know we're going to get into fund balance more than we would. We don't want to get in it at all, but we know we're going to get into it some. And I'll use this for example. We started this fiscal year with a projected shortfall of about $1.2 million, just over $1 million. But we're going to end this fiscal year to the plus, maybe $1 million. So that's really a $2 million swing through this fiscal year that we've been able to save. Now, obviously, we shut down operations for 9 weeks. At the end of the year, that certainly contributed to that. But we weren't going to be in the red. I'm very confident this year, regardless. But we started the year with a 1.2 in our budget, in our projections. We certainly want to always err on the side of overestimating our expenditures and underestimating revenue. So I really think we can get that, what we did in the fund equity projected at the end of next school year. I think we can get it down there, maybe in the threes. If we end up with a $14-15 million fund balance, we want to take out $3 million or so to get us through this tough tax. Well, that's just a rainy day fund. That's what it's for. And we don't raise millage, we don't cut programs, and we're not cutting personnel, and we don't have furloughs.
How much of that has got to be for the school? Is it really fund balance? None of that for the school?
No, not one but that's all of that East Plus, that's a whole nother deal. And I'll let Mr. I'll just go through and he'll show you that's capital projects. There's another page over here.
That very last column, you your school. Capital projects is anything SPOS wise for construction, Denty, Bacon. That also includes where we can spend money for
transportation if it's needed, technology is needed, all that would have been in that original write-up that would have been done, that the voters would have voted on for SPLOST. That's all in capital projects.
Track
That's not in
project.
general.
That's great.
That's not,
So
that's.
that's all sales tax monies and, state capital outlay monies. That's what's going into, our projects. Basically. Of course, capital outlay has to be spent on James and Baker only.
Have
That
we,
is projected to be $4 million or more.
have we gotten a report on what the revenue for taxes have been for the month of May yet?
It was up. It was up compared to last year. It's up again this
I figured it was up.
Sales tax was, I actually pulled and told him, compared to the same month of the previous year, it was up.
Mm-hmm.
It was up. So it's holding strong. which is
During the week,
good
it
to
went
see.
down.
Everybody was home and and Zaxby was right around the corner every day. They were eating. They were fine.
So the online market went up too.
Yeah.
Everybody reported on online.
Everybody, including me.
So the 12,810,000 estimated at the end of June, that you're saying there'll be only about 3 point something coming out of that? Is that, am I understanding that right?
Which one are you looking at?
If we dip into the fund balance.
No, that 12 million you're looking at, that's capital
That's capital.
projects. You need to look at each column. That general fund column is what we call the main operating account. We are projecting that we will be in the neighborhood of $14 million in the positive when we get to June the 30th, when we finish everything to close out business.
Mm-hmm.
We are currently projecting about a $5.8 million loss based on budget numbers. We're pretty sure it's going to be less than that. So when you take 14 million, you take that loss from it. Now you look at just the budget up there, you're showing a little over $8 million being left in the general fund. The SPLOST has got its own money set aside that's currently sitting in there, where it's money that's being collected for sales tax is still sitting there, and all the bonds, when we issue bonds, that money is sitting there as well. That's a separate separate account, the whole 9 yards. They're totally opposite of each other.
So the 3 point something that we have to, the fund balance will come out of the 8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Come out of
No, no,
14.
if you look up about 3 lines, you see where that negative 5.8 is?
Yeah.
That's where we are projecting, based on our discussion.
Right,
We think
14
we're
million.
overshooting that. We are overshooting it with that 5.8 number, based on what we feel and based on prior history. So, based on our numbers, let's just say we did spend that whole 5.8 in the general fund, we would still have about $8 million if we were sitting in this same room 12 months from now. That's where we would roughly be. That's what we're talking about in the general, the main operating account. But that does not take into effect that column you see right next to it on there, which is the $1.5 million coming from the CARES Act. So that they are not offsetting each other. We had to separate those out because of that money's coming from the federal government, so it had to be displayed separately from the general.
So Doc, did you make the adjustment in this as far as coming down from 14% to 11%?
Yes.
So that is reflected. That is part of that reduction we're talking about, that $1 million or so reductions this last time we put this in front of you. And again, we're trying to get basically a tentative budget tonight if we can, and then for June 30th. And then once they get out of session, you know exactly, and I'll ask you just to note these numbers. We're projecting the fund balance to be 14 million. I'm very confident it's going to be more than that. So that's to the good. Okay. And then we could come back in July or August and, approve a amended budget if we need to make some big adjustments. If we come up with some surprises from the state, we come up, I don't know, fund balance is $2 million more. That's something we probably want to adjust in the budget a little bit to reflect that. But again, we much rather project $5 million loss and only end up with 3 than project 3 and end up with 5. So
let me ask you this, the 14 to 11%, we get roughly 30,000 plus 30 million plus 5 million equalization. So are we looking at 3% of the 35 million?
so it's basically close to $1 million.
It was
We're
roughly $1 million.
We're gonna be roughly in 50,000 better off than what we thought, right?
Originally, that's
Correct.
correct.
If that holds true.
Right.
You know, the governor just made that statement, so you'd like to think that's, you
I
can
left
take
a
it to the
little,
bank, but,
I left a little cushion in there. Just
and I really hope, there's a lot of discussion too, that's going to end up better than the 11%. Either it's going to be reduced for education a little bit more, or they decide that equalization, that $5 million we projected, or we got last year, 5.3, that they don't cut that as much or at all, and so that would be another, that's about, you know, we projected that 14% was about $750,000 lost in that amount, so.
Well, I got an email from Blake Tiller corresponding about something, and he did confirm, he's on that budget committee, he confirmed that it is the 11%, and there's a possibility that it could be less than that based on how the economy bounces back.
And their numbers weren't as bad as they projected either.
Right.
State this for last month, so. That's some positive news, so. Just we're trending in that positive direction, not the other way.
Just help me understand, so we're saying worst case scenario, we expect to have $8 million.
Absolutely worst case scenario. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be very much a worst case scenario.
And going into this school year, that's what I'm saying is, you know, basically throughout the year, we're coming in this year about $2 million to the good than what we projected at this time last year. And I think we can get close to that. I know that not operating for 9 weeks skews it a little bit. But I know going in, we're going to be scrutinizing everything from field trips for safety purposes to and all personnel. We're going to study those class size numbers and get to a number that we think we can stomach and start doing the math and see how many teachers we can cut through attrition. That's not just blowing up our class sizes and having 32 kindergartens and kindergarten class. So, we're not going there, but I think we can pinch it a little bit, not to get over the recommended numbers that's always been in place, class size, even though we do our own now, flexibility option. Anyway. Any other questions about the budget? Concerns? I know you've had it mulled over.
I just,
Better
you
than
just
last
kind
time.
of got me a little bit with the 32 kindergartners. I know you were just making a hypothetical thing, but I'm just imagining 32 kindergartners in a classroom. Woo, with 5 pair of ropes.
Having 15 and 16 is a full class.
Yeah.
Have any public comment for this budget? Public comment? All right, Doc, we'll move on to our surplus item.
Yes, sir. We just have for you here, these are 6 buses that we want to put in surplus in addition to 2 trucks, commodity trucks. One of the buses and one of the trucks, we're simply just going to enter them into surplus because we're either going to, whatever, scrap them or use them for parts. There's some of them that we need for parts that they'll break down, strip down. Because they're older buses, some of them are still running, but the parts are hard to find, so they'll strip them down and keep parts for a rainy day. And we're still, just so you know, to be clear, that we still are on track with our bus purchases like we have the last 2 years, 5. Hopefully the state participates in the same, at least the same. Hopefully, it'd be nice more, but that's not going to happen.
We get that pretty bus back?
Ma'am?
Have we gotten that pretty bus back?
I do not know about the pretty bus. I hope.
You need a motion for this, Doc, or you just for the?
Surplus?
Yes.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for surplus items.
Move the second.
And I do need to back up that we really are, if we were ready to take action on approving a tentative budget, that enables us to continue the process. I forgot that. So I was just kidding.
Got to do this bus thing first, and we'll go back to that.
Okay, we got, okay, it's down lockdown.
Oh, okay, got it. I'm sorry.
We'll move the second on the first motion.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, Daniel.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
School enrollment, just want to get your feelings on something that, you know, I'm going to say right when I got into this
this role, the board at that time and you know, even the board after that really wanted us to focus on getting school enrollment numbers as equal as we can. They were out of whack. Arthur Williams was very heavy at the time, as was James E. Bacon and Jessup Elementary compared to Martha Ross Smith. So we, at that same time, we were going through that flexibility options. You know, we became a strategic waiver school system that gives us flexibility to do some things, waive some school law, I mean, state laws basically is what it was about. So we got out of the variance business. We've not had variance for 5 years. I know that word's still thrown around some. What we do have is open enrollment at Martha Puckett, Martha Ross, and Scriven Elementary based on enrollment numbers. Well, I'm sharing with you today, Martha Puckett, and they were like this last year, and Arthur Williams are about as even as they've ever, I know as even as they've ever been. I'm talking about less than 10 students difference between the two. All right. Martha Ross Smith now has more students than James E. Bacon. Okay. It's almost the same. They may have 10, 20 students more than James E. Bacon does. Jessup Elementary is still a little heavy, but not near as heavy as they were. Both of them used to be close to 800 students. So, and they're still heavy. They're still the heaviest, but they're not. I mean, they're in the low sevens, I believe. So what I would ask for you to support is we just stop our open enrollment at Martha Ross Smith and Martha Puckett at this time because it's not needed. I don't want to start getting out of whack the other way. You know what I'm saying? I think we still need to leave that option for Scriven. We do have some folks take us up on that once in a while. And Scriven's numbers, you know, it's been pretty consistent, but they have good numbers, if that makes sense, is that they basically pretty much numbers in fully earning 2 teachers in each grade. When you get into, you know, when you only have 2 teachers and you get a few more, now you're like, oh, do I stay big numbers and have 2 teachers, or if you have a 3rd teacher that's not going to be fully funded through FTE, and you're going to have students in each class. You get into some of those things. Is there any thoughts, heartburn, discussion, concerns about that? And that's just it. Don't need action. That's just the process that I would just tell our principals that we're no longer doing that. You know, we awarded all of them unless it was a discipline issue or some kind of parent problem. We still have a process to approve them enrolling in a school where we can kind of make sure they wouldn't swap them back into because they don't, you know, they want to play with this baseball coach or this school. Or, you know, they're mad with this English teacher or something like that. We tried to cull that, but for the most part, we awarded them. So, any problems with that? I think this is the year to do it and monitor it. That enables us to stay out of the whole rezoning issue. I mean, we're required by law. Just I know you know this. Everybody's knowledge may not know it. That we're required by law to make sure our schools are equitable in not just numbers, but in socioeconomic, races to the best of our ability. Scriven and Odom are a little bit different, but that's been approved. You know, we built new schools there, so those are what they are. Rezoning has not been, well, it's not occurred in any county. It's never gotten over the hump. You know, because when you start telling people you don't get to go to Scriven, you don't get to go to James E. Bacon anymore. You got to go to Scriven. Or you don't get to go to Scriven. You got to go to James E. Bacon. You fill this place up in a hurry. Concerned people. 747.
Dr. Branson also, property loan came out calculating exactly. So I've never seen.
I'm very pleased with
So
that. That's, I don't know what we did, but we
money
did something
they
right.
get from Title I would be.
That keeps us out of all the trouble. And I'll mention another thing that we were going to have a visit from Department of Justice was coming to visit us. All this work by keeping schools equitable numbers wise and making some strides there. We passed the test with federal programs, but DOJ was coming for a visit. We still have not exited
the desegregation lawsuit from the sixties in Wayne County. We've been working on that. It was worked on prior to my arrival. I know for a fact we've worked on it hard the last 7 years, and we're very close to satisfying that, and what you reach what's called unitarian status. We're at the end of a lot of paperwork and sharing things and collecting data and sending it to them, and I think they're finally satisfied. Hopefully we can get to that. When you get to that, that gets you off some of these lists about these other audits and what you're doing. Not that we don't need to continue to audit what we're doing in-house, but them outside people, they just drown you in paperwork and collecting things, documents, uploading. A lot of it's taxing on our personnel. I mean, our personnel deal with that. All right,
Pre-K,
pre-K.
what's up with them?
Pre-K, what is up with them? That's one reason that number's not lower. Mr. Pipkin, I know you're doing the math about the 14%, but 14% also affected pre-K. Now it's down to 11%, but that's about $200,000 if we're going to stay whole and not close classes or cut pay or reduce instructional days for teachers and students. To stay whole like we've been doing, it's about a $200,000 loss that the general fund has to make up. So that's included in there. We've always done that. I don't think we're at the point that we absolutely have to start trying to do something. We've done that in the past. Treated pre-K paras maybe a little different than other parapros. Creates a lot. It creates a revolving door of personnel, which is not good for kids at all. As far as who's in those classes, who's in the other classes. So pre-K registration, online registration is going well, and they're closing out. We'll have the lottery coming up. I think after we come back in July, everybody's all kind of getting off contract, vacation, all that stuff. But when we come back in July, they'll have the lottery pick, and everybody be notified what class they're in, and that's. Then this online thing is really went pretty good. There's been some hiccups, but I think we're going to do the same thing with kindergarten registration too. Try to move that to online registration as well. Most of our kids are in pre-K. They simply roll up, but there are some kids that did not go to pre-K last year in our system, so they'll have to register online for the fall.
That registration, is that done by school districts, or if one school fills up, that person will be able to go to another? I mean, how's it done?
It's zoned. You have to be zoned in that area to go to pre-K at that school. That's not Wayne County. That's a state right from the start regulation. So they verify residents and they fill that stuff out and have to provide all that.
So if one school is not filled, yeah, if one school is not filled up, and you still have kids on the waiting list, yeah, you do move them. Okay.
We do move them around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we move them around to get them in. We make sure any slots that we have, we call them up, and they call them up and say, look, we got a slot at wherever. Just Elementary, we like to go there. We know you're zoned from Mark Ross Smith, they're full. You want to go to Just Elementary, most time it's yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we always fill them up.
Financial management?
We do need action on this if we're going to continue being. We've been the fiscal agent for Family Connection. That's just a collaboration of services that are offered in our county. We serve as the fiscal agent. They have a budget of it's been reduced to 50,000. They're a state grant too. So they're being reduced from 50,000 down to 43,000. And basically, we do have a member that serves on there, part of the collaborative. And Ms. Aldridge basically serves as the fiscal agent, manages their funds. Lana Wright is that director. She does an outstanding job, goes by all of our bookkeeping procedures and protocols. Never been an issue. I certainly recommend we continue doing that. That's a good partnership that links our school system with all of those services. These are wraparound services that are offered in our community or close by. But we do need action if that's true.
Second.
Second. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ellis, I do need to sign this
Yes, sir.
document.
Also need a motion to approve the tentative budget for FY 21.
So move.
Moving second.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Daniel,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Whitmore.
Yes, ma'am.
I did not. I don't. But. Move past that, no executive session. Personnel recommendations for June 9th. 35 recommendations: Danisha Derby, Martha Ross Smith Elementary; Edith Curtsey, Martha Puckett; Jose Mendez, Martha Puckett; Kent Wilkerson, Martha Puckett. Certified transfers: Patty Holland, Martha Ross Smith to Arthur Williams; Christy Wood, Martha Ross Smith to Martha Ross Smith Instructional Coach. Classified recommendations: Megan Elliott, Wayne County High School Principal Secretary; Brenda Gardner, Scribner Elementary Paraprofessional; Shane Lane, Martha Puckett Middle School Paraprofessional; Tiffany McFadden, Jessica Elementary School Food Services; Mitchell, Arthur Williams Paraprofessional; Olivia Mobley, Transportation; Bernetta Nesbitt, Jessica Elementary Paraprofessional; Madison Schaefer, Jessica Elementary Paraprofessional; and Brittany Stewart, Jessica Elementary Paraprofessional. Motion to approve superintendent's recommendations as presented.
So move.
So,
Moving second.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris, Ms. Daniel,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Whitmore.
yes, ma'am. Well, I wound up saying it in my prayer, but, Don Williams, I understand he's home. Good guy, and he's always praying for him. And, police are taking a beating, so I just want to thank Nick Ellis for what he does day in and day out. And all of our law enforcement.
Well, it's a little late now. It's 8 o'clock. So I just hope everybody went to vote today. But if you did not get a chance to vote today and you are not registered, I put out the challenge for you to go get registered to vote so you can do your civic duty in November. And I pray that everybody stays and remains safe and healthy.
I'm good, folks. Appreciate your work. Turn back.